Okay, it's recording now. So this one's very interesting because I have a very special guest, Spartan. If you guys don't know Spartan, he is one of the bigger YouTube creators, well, English-speaking YouTube content creators for Rise of Kingdoms. I still remember watching your equipment guides. Those are definitely my favorite, right? Everyone makes their equipment guides. Yours are my favorite, and honestly,
Yeah,
I would
you.
say like
Thank you.
I'm not even telling you this because we're on the call right now, but you're probably actually my favorite content creator when I was like a younger player trying to figure out what was going on. So I think you reached out like a few days ago, day or two. I can't remember now, but you actually wanted to. You saw some of the mentoring videos, and you would like to actually go over that with your new account, right? This one has like a 174 ID, which is crazy. Like in less than a year, we're gonna
Yes.
get to like 200, which is nuts.
Yeah.
But obviously, you're already very knowledgeable on a lot of stuff, and I think some of the stuff we talked about before we started recording is that one, pretty soon people won't be able to actually migrate back. So the people that are in the early game are going to be younger players. But then also, you haven't been in Season of Conquest in a while, so it's just kind of cool to talk about some of that stuff to get an update, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Is there anything else I missed that you wanted to add?
No, let's
Okay.
get coached.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so starting out, what is your, I guess, like medium term plan? I only want to say long term, right? You just never know. But medium term plan for this account, like what kind of kingdom or what kind of fighting would you like to have, and then kind of what's your vision for this account?
Just a second. By the way, are you able to delete things?
Delete things? What do you mean?
Yeah, in the middle. For example, I just had to change the volume level. Are you able to delete it from the VOD?
I mean, yeah, I could go through and edit it and delete it, but the volume seemed fine on
Okay.
my end. Is there something wrong?
Yeah, I accidentally lowered it, so I got it back again now.
Okay. I think that, I mean, it's what I'm recording is just what I'm hearing, so I think it'll be fine from my end. But yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So what's your what's your goals?
Well, my goal is to be, of course, in a fighting kingdom, but not a super demanding kingdom like 1093, for example. That was the kingdom that I was in with my older account. So I still want to be a fighting kingdom, but in that with my old account, right? I just you know the story. I couldn't keep up with the others because I didn't have farm accounts. I don't plan to make multiple farm accounts, but for this account, I do plan to make one, probably starting soon. So I would say like a low A seed kingdom. And when it comes
Okay.
to commanders, equipment, and armament, I plan to have 3 or maximum 4 marches.
Okay.
And I guess that's about it.
And then is like about like 30 mil kill achievement about like what you would like to shoot for every KVK?
Yeah, probably. And
Okay.
I do want to do it since I make content. I do want to be able to do it with different configurations. For example, if I spend everything that I have and get 30 million kills, there is nothing impressive. But for example, if I be able to do it with 1 march, or if I'll be able to do it with T4 only,
or
then that
or
would be
siege
impressive.
only or something like that.
Yeah, or siege only, like
Yeah.
engineer
Okay.
march only 30 million kills. That would be impressive. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then obviously this account's really young, so you're about to start KVK3, or where are you at as far as the timeline?
Yeah, we just left KVK2, I guess, 2 days ago.
Oh wow. Okay. All right. So now it's good to know. So 3400 and higher is right before KVK3, right around that time. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so obviously, when it's early game like this, the stats are pretty irrelevant, right? Just because, I mean, it's such a crapshoot where like you get into a KVK where there's just no fighting at all. A lot of times people are still building their accounts. It's really the big whales, and then once you get into KVK2, like a lot of the players that migrate back, they're, for lack of a better word, a lot of them are just there to like bully native players. And so like this doesn't really make that big of a difference. Now, what's really interesting with your account, let's go over it, is you essentially hoarded almost everything, right? So it's almost like, I don't know if you had fun. All right, you said you've been doing this for about what, 6 months, this account?
Yeah, it's around 205 days, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, about 6 months. Yeah, and This is actually really interesting because you have Mina Max, and I didn't actually ask you, what's your CC at?
I think it is. Let me check real quick.
Okay.
5-2 something. Yeah, 5-2-2-3.
Okay, and then if you had to bring up a March, it'll be Cav, it'll be Mina CC or Mina buy bars, right?
Based on the number of troops, if they are crowded, I go with the AoE secondary. If
Right.
not, like little skirmishes, then I go with Mina Cao Cao.
Okay. Do you know about how much mats you have on the screen here? I did a rough math, but I just want to know if you already knew the exact amount.
I don't. I actually calculated it, but since then, I think I did it a week ago. But I got some, Vanquisher bundles.
Right.
So I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's a little over 200.
Yeah, but when I did the math, it's probably around about 250. Probably slightly lower than 250 if I had to take a guess. Right.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just like a quick math. So, okay, so right now you're essentially going into KVK3, and it's like you have a almost clean slate, right? You have all the gold heads saved up. You have 250 mats to play with. You have all these armament chests. Like you didn't even send me armament, so I assume you don't even have any
No, I
armaments
just
yet.
used the ones, yeah, that are okay. Yeah, from
Okay.
traveling and dispatching. That's it. Nothing else.
Okay. And then your spend, I guess we'll consider that like a low spend, right? Maybe like about $50 a month out of KVK, and then
Yeah, I actually do keep up everything. Do keep track of everything with account update videos. And since the last video, it was around 1,050 in total.
okay.
That I spent so far, and I think I purchased 2 more Vanquisher bundles, so it should be
Okay.
around like $1,060.
so okay, but I'm saying like, but it sounds like a lot of the spending you did was actually upfront to get like Mina and stuff. I'm talking about like right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Mina was super expensive by itself.
Right now, if
And
you're
of
gonna
course there is
do
King's Coronation. Yeah.
right now, if you were gonna do month to month, like what would you consider your spend to be? Like, because right now
So
there's no crystal
I
tech
do.
yet.
Yeah, I do only spend during recharge events.
Mm-hmm.
I mostly refresh the 30-day gem supply.
Mm-hmm.
I got the daily. I get the New World bundle, the first one and the second one, $5 and $10.
Yeah.
These are the spending that I do during the recharge event. And outside of recharge event, I do purchase pop-ups. For example,
Right.
when you summon a new commander, you get the Writer of History. I purchased that for materials. That was the Vanquisher, and I think there is one for armaments. I don't remember its name, but it's very similar to them. When you get a new armament with, I think, some speciality,
Right.
you get the pop-up chest, and I purchased it as well outside of recharge.
Okay, so I think it's fair to say like probably somewhere between $50 to $100 a month.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Probably closer to 100, or maybe even a little bit over if you actually get into Season of Conquest with Crystal Tech, and then under 100 if you're not like in KVK, especially in the end game. Yes.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
true. I mean, in the first month, it's going to be a little bit higher because all commanders just became available. So every single time I summon one, I'll probably buy the bundle.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Rights of History.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, not no big purchases.
Okay. So, I mean, we could talk about this a little bit. I don't know how set you are on the spend, right? Like, so it's actually funny. I was talking to someone, I think yesterday, and for me, spending money, I enjoy it if I could tie it into some kind of working towards a long-term goal. Right? Sometimes it might be delusional, right? But if I could at least emotionally tie it to, hey, this is actually progressing me towards a goal, then I'm like, I'll gladly spend it. Like subconsciously, I'm not gonna lie. Probably part of the reason why I started a YouTube channel was because I'm like, man, I'm spending a lot of time and money on this game. But if I make a YouTube channel, then I could say I'm moving my channel along, then I could feel better about it, right? And like, who knew if it was ever actually going to pay off? But then, like, as the channel grew, and then now, like with this like mentoring, and then there's different avenues, I could justify spending more, and then there's actual like tangible returns on it, right? And like your channel's way bigger, and you're very good at making guides. Like you're very personable. I don't know if you've ever actually considered making that connection I don't know if your channel needs you to spend more to grow, but it's just something to consider. I'm just planting a seed. We're not gonna like talk about that any further, but I do think like with how much of the groundwork you laid, I actually wonder if you did spend more, you could figure out a way to actually get more of a return on that. It would, it would be like a win-win on both sides, right?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I could at least test out the new commanders as soon as possible. That would be great for viewers, because day one they'll know everything they need to know. Probably not everything, but most things they need to know about a new commander. But I don't think I can spend on that level. I never did, and probably I never will.
Yeah. All right. So now, having said that, I think I'll start talking over some like bigger picture concepts for me that I think will kind of guide this along. We'll go over commanders, equipment, armaments, all that stuff. Obviously, like in between, you have any like comments, questions, or anything, it should be more like a dialogue, right? All right. So what's really cool with this is you essentially saved almost everything. So it's like, okay, we're about to enter KVK3. There's a clean slate. How would you go about it, right? In general, I made a video about this. It's like, how many marches should you have? It's people just want to simplify stuff, right? They just want choice A or choice B. When I say like quality versus quantity, someone in the comment was like, it doesn't matter. Quality is always better, right? Like well, there's different degrees of quality, right? Like, what do you define quality? What's actually like? You're saying when you have crit Awaken 4, until you get everything to Awaken 5, you shouldn't go to another march, right? Like there's actually nuance to it. But when people want to dumb things down and make it choice A or choice B, you actually start losing the ability to make like nuance and depth decisions. So one great way to think about this is as you're upgrading how many marches you have in commanders, right? What you want to weigh is, okay, your activity level. And I think you just had a baby and stuff, right? So you probably can't grind and play as much as some like 22-year-old kid who just doesn't have a life, who just play all day, right? Like the wife comes home, it's like, hey, what are you doing on the like? And I get it, right? Because if I was single, I probably would stream a lot more, right? But it is what it is. So
I wasn't able to do it even without the kids. So
oh yeah, okay, yeah. So there's one, your activity level, two, your spend, and they kind of determine, like how much gems you could get, how much resources, speed ups you can get, which in fact, and when you're in KVK, right? Like if you actually have more speeds and more resources, you could get away with having a little less quality, because ideally, if you're doing it right, you're burning through your resources, speeds, and then the amount of time you can play at about a similar pace. So like you can imagine if someone's running a mile, right, or a 5K or whatever, wherever you live, you want to pace it correctly. So when you really push at the end, that was just pretty much everything you got, right? A mismanagement would be, for example, if you run out of resources, but you still have a bunch of speeds left, but because you have no resources, you can't find anymore, or vice versa, you run out of speeds, but you still have a bunch of resources left. Then something happened there where you didn't actually allocate the different things that you need to fight well, right? Or if you have a bunch of resources and speeds, but you can only play X amount of time, so you barely use like 5% of your resources speeds, but you couldn't play anymore, and that's what's limiting you, right? Like so a lot of this is figuring out, okay, if these are the different buckets where I have these things, how do I balance it where I can maximize everything, right? So if you have more marches, you could burn through your resources and speeds faster, right? And then you won't have to play as much time to get the same amount of stats. If you have a lot more time and the resources and speeds are limiting, maybe you do want to go with one march, much higher quality, so you're hyper efficient with your trades, and that's like the way to go, right? So everyone's like life situation is a little bit different, but when I'm thinking about, okay, how many marches should you have, and then like all this stuff, obviously there's a lot of moving parts, but that's kind of ideally like where you want to get to is, okay, all these different buckets are kind of balanced so that when I'm able to play to whatever like the full out is for me in KVK, I get to almost use them all about simultaneously. And then that means you maximize your account, right? So if we're talking about you, right? If you're low spend, you do have a limited amount of time.
Mhm.
And then resources and speeds are also going to be like probably limiting. I don't think you should actually go definitely not more than 4 marches, given the profile you're talking about. But I think like 4 marches eventually is what you want to shoot for. But starting out, I actually think you should just like get 1 march to a really good place before moving on. Right? If it was someone that was like a mid higher spend and they have aspirations of going more, I would actually probably like push them towards 3 marches faster. But for you, I actually think 1 march, just like kind of given your activity level and your spend, and then probably about how much time you have. Like having a march that trades really really well, and then you could grind that to like 30 mil kills. Probably would be what you're looking for starting out.
Okay, perfect. Because this is the reason why it's perfect, because this is better and different than what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, difference is
What I think
that is great.
eventually
So
you do want to
yeah,
get there, right? But like if you try
yeah,
to
yeah.
go
Uh-huh.
3 marches right now, none of the marches will actually be good enough. And like at a lower competition level, you can still like do some stuff, but I don't even know if you'll have that much fun with it. Whereas like if you get 1 march to a lot
Yeah.
better place, right? Like you can pull up the reports, the trades will be great. You won't have the same kind of output like you will with 3 marches, but if you won't be burning through resources and speeds as much. Like it's it's a more fun and more
Mhm.
suitable number of marches, I think, for like your situation starting out.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is that's great, because one thing I had in my mind is that I was either going to go for a few low investments, so
Yeah.
I would go for more like a quantity side. For example, I was going to invest on Joan of Arc, low investment Joan of Arc,
Yeah.
maybe 5115 or 5515, so that I can have a better pair for Minamoto until I have a proper cavalry commander.
Right.
I was gonna all in Liu Che and William Wallace, but then equipment is going to be meh, because I was going to I would need to equal out my equipment for 3 marches,
Yeah.
and then I was going to low invest on Zhuge Liang and Herman, and then later on max them both. But the second option on my mind was going all in on 1 march only,
Yeah.
at least for a while, such as William Wallace Liu Che. Or I was actually thinking about going like an engineering march,
Yes.
because the return on that march is the kill ratio is just insane. So that was the main thing, was why I was undecisive when it comes to Season of Conquest, because I haven't played it for like at least 6 to 7 months.
Yeah, because like without knowing your competition level, and actually I looked through your kingdom. There's some interesting people there. Like one's actually a recruit we have, and then I think I saw like
Oh,
Baba's farm in there. Like I don't even know how you found that kingdom. It's a real interesting kingdom. But if you went option one, right, when you went wider with 3 marches, uh, you'll probably be able to get like more kills in a shorter amount of time, but the efficiency, like the amount of speeds and resources you're going to have to burn to do that, will be significantly higher, and then you're not going to get like really really good reports, right? Like I just like kind of like been following your channel for a while and like knowing you, I actually don't think you would enjoy that as much, like personally. Okay.
I kind of agree. Yeah, I kind of agree.
Right, because it's like okay, because you fought at a much higher level, right? And like just like taking mediocre reports, but like getting to like whatever KP you get to, like because you have more margin. I don't think it's as fun, right? So then the question is, okay, if you are going to do a single march, like what's the way to go? Engineering, if you were going to do 1 march, you could start with it. But I tell people if they plan on doing multiple marches and mixing field and engineering, the earliest I think you should do it would be the 4th march. Okay, now
Mhm.
if you're just talking about like the best engineering pairs, putting together the engineering march and how it trades and all that stuff, honestly, it probably is the best march in the game. But the challenge
Yeah,
with doing
sure.
engineering is obviously there's like a setup time, right? I think it's like 8 seconds to set up, 10 seconds to take down, or the opposite. I haven't been in KVK in like 3 months. I forgot.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
6 to 8.
Okay, 6 to
6
8.
to
Yeah.
set up, 8 to
Okay. Yeah. Regardless, the setup time and the takedown time is different, right? And when you're doing that, so right now I'm running field marches and engineering. There are times where I just can't use an engineering march, right? Because especially if you're winning, right, and the ball is moving, right? So if you're like in a stalemate, the ball's just fighting. That's like an engineer, a siege commander's like dream, right? They just set up in a good place. It just gets like free trades. It's great. But if your side is winning and you're pushing into their territory, one, like your siege
especially
is,
if you need to move between their cities. Oh my
yeah,
god.
if people see that, they will do everything they can to dive bomb and just like swarm your siege march. Something that I don't think I've seen people talk about is siege marches are great baits. Like I've used like I've literally, because and by the way, if you do run a siege march, I think you should run T4 because the way the stats work, right? The difference between T4 and T5, the damage output of T4 is maybe about 10% lower, but then it's probably like 35% less tanky. So for anyone that's used like full T4 compared to full T5, you'll probably notice that like you're not necessarily in that much more damage with T5, but when you're using T4, it just feels way squishier, right? That's more of a that's more noticeable of a problem if you're doing a field march. But when you're doing siege, where if you set it up right, the only thing you're taking back is counterattack damage, and you're only doing like 10% less damage, and it's so much cheaper. Like I think for most people, T4 is actually the way to go for siege, just because.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah,
let me interrupt you real quick. Have you ever played League of Legends?
I have not.
Yeah. Okay. So people who did, they know that there is a character named Timo,
Okay.
and that bastard is so annoying that people when people see it, they will do anything. They will
Just take it down.
sacrifice
Yeah.
their lives
Yes.
just to take it down.
That's
And
what
I
they.
feel like
Yes.
Siege is Siege is
Yes.
very similar to that guy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So like sometimes I'll just put it in like a very annoying spot, right? And then I'll because like once you use it for a while, you start getting a sense of the takedown setup time. You can literally like take down the tower when they get to a certain distance from your tower, and you know you'll actually have time to take it down and retreat. So like I'll start like doing stuff like that just to bait them to come out. And then I will say what I notice is most players are kind of lazy, I guess. Like if they get baited in and then you're just getting like swarmed down, right? Rather than run away, where maybe they could save like 20% of the troops that they would have took 7 wounds, 30%, they'll just stay and fight, and they just let you like they'll just let you take them down. Yeah. So you can start doing a lot of cool things when you have a siege and a field march. But the problem is if you do have siege and field, you're gonna either have to choose one or the other. In several scenarios where, and then because if you have more siege march, if you have more field marches, obviously you're going to choose a field march over siege. There's just going to be times where you're not going to use it, right? So usually when I'm coaching or mentoring people, I tell them, hey, if you're going to be a siege main, fine, go for it. But if you plan on doing field marches, you actually want to at least get your field marches done and then go to siege for that reason. Because if you do have more than one field march, right? If you're doing like 3 field and 1 siege, you want the field done because you're going to use those all the time. Whereas a siege, there's going to be times where you're not going to use it.
Yeah, it's a little bit situational.
Yeah. Okay. Now, 1,400 gold heads. Obviously, you have a little bit more than 2 commanders worth of gold heads right now. If you're calculating based off of 250 mats, and this is provided you have all the blueprints, right? You can actually, for an infantry, you can make the legendary boots, the Karok's humility, right? So the epic pants, the legendary gloves, the hope cloak, the set helm, and then you could get about halfway through the shield, right? But obviously the blue shield's really good, so you could have that in the meantime, and you can actually use all of that and start out for that for infantry. Looking at this, I think the trap would be, well, I already am pretty far along on my cav. Maybe I should build a cav first. And also in KVK3, the cav wheel comes out first. So if I get the cav, I could use it for like a couple of ruins, right? And I don't know if you don't remember KVK3, it's essentially just like ruins and altars fights until like a very small Kingsland that usually lasts a very short amount of time. and after that
Yeah.
you're just clearing zones, right? It's the most boring KVK out of the 3 early game KVKs, in my
Indeed,
opinion,
yeah.
right? So I feel like people end up making that, and I'll call it a mistake. And the reason why it's a mistake is because at this point right now, the best infantry march is so much better than the best cav march that I think investing in cav to take away from your ability to invest in infantry is a mistake. Like the have you seen the Reports Manager by Cubus Mike?
Yes, I saw it in some of your videos and some of
Okay.
OmniArc's.
All right, that thing's amazing, right? But when I
Yeah.
trap it, and this is over hundreds, maybe thousands of reports, the Luce Alex mark was straight up doing almost twice as much damage, or causing twice as much sevs as my Nevsky Joan. The equipment's not that much different. The armament's not that much different. It's just just a much better march, right? So if you just think, okay, the Lucha Alex is doing 80% more sevs than Nevsky Joan, right? If you invest in the Cavs and didn't wait like the 4 weeks, whatever, or 2 weeks to go to infantry, and you're missing out on 80% output, is it worth it, right? Like it's just not, right? Because ZL Herman is probably the second best march, right? And then like at best, you can make a case that maybe the Cav is third, like at best. You know, engineering is probably actually in the top 3 too before you will go to Cavs. Like Cavs are very deep, right? Even the second Cav march, the third Cav march, there's not as much of a drop off compared to archer and infantry. But the very best Cav march right now, I think, is running like 4th out of the 4 troop types, in my opinion.
Yeah, Cav is in a weird spot because just like you said, you can go multiple Cav marches and you won't see a lot of difference between them. The power level is close to each other. But when you think about the single best march, Cav is not even close.
Yeah, so if you're going infantry then, and actually I think I talked about this in the video I released yesterday, like Lucha's like automatic, right? You want to expertise that. If you want to go a little bit more of a, and then I think you should actually invest in Scipio, right? So Lucha Alex, in my opinion, is the best march in the game. I think the second best march will actually be Scipio Lucha. And then third will actually be Lucha primary, and then William Wallace secondary, as opposed to the other way around. It just trades better. And if you, for me at least, like rage manipulation, I think it's much more valuable in a duel and in like a garrison rally context, but in an open fielding context, I don't think it's that good. You know, and some people made the case, okay, but maybe it's not that good if it's just like one march. What if you had a bunch of William Wallace Luches on the field? Like, I guess, right? But like, if you're making that case, you're like, well, what if you have a bunch of William Wallaces, like just throwing out like mighty shields all over the place? That thing would be unstoppable, right? Like, at a certain point, like you can't start like saying, oh, because it's going to be not doing much, but because there's so many other marches that are also going to be doing it, then it's going to be really powerful. Like I don't think that, I think you're going down a slippery slope thinking about it that way. And because of that, I don't think Alex is very future proof, but Scipio is. I would rather take a march that I think is maybe slightly worse, even though a lot of people argue that it's better than Lucha Alex, and then just invest in that, because from there, you could go a lot of different ways, even when like the new infantry comes around. And also, you know, now with more and more artifact KVKs, right? You think about, for example, Alex versus Scipio. If you were able to switch them into another troop type, which one would have a lot more use? It would be Scipio and not Alex, right? So so even though I do think Lucha Alex is better, if I was gonna recommend someone invest in one troop type right now, I would actually say it would be Lucha and Scipio. Okay, so you have enough gold heads. Lucha, you have to max just because his expertise is transformative. It literally takes him from like a pretty good commander to the best commander of the game. Scipio, that one is kind of up to you. I'm not sure how fast you're gaining mats and blueprints, right? Because like you don't want to just start putting stuff into another march when it's not really like usable, right? It's better to just save it, and when you can actually get the equipment and get the commander then you just boom, another march pops up rather than work on it slowly, right? You could gather the blueprints, you could gather the mats, but you know, you just never know if you have to pivot. It's better to save it.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Yeah.
though, I think just because of YouTube, I think I would Lucha, I would go with William Wallace because people
Mhm.
will be more interesting of seeing the new commander in action rather
Okay.
than.
I mean, that factors in decision, right? Like if you want to
Yeah,
go
yeah,
that route, you could do it too. And it's not necessarily, it's not like necessarily going to set your account back, because
yeah,
I think it's safe to guess that we're going to just start seeing more and more smite damage commanders come out. So
yeah,
like
exactly.
there could definitely be a scenario where William Wallace will actually be more valuable as a pairing with another smite commander than Scipio. But the reason why I would go Scipio is because even if that's the case, there's way more scenarios where William Wallace will actually be less valuable than Scipio in the future, right? Because
Yeah,
Scipio is so
that is true.
versatile, but like William Wallace, I mean that's the case. Like go for it, but like you could try running it, especially if you decide to get the reports manager. But there's enough reports out there now where with Luce's primary, it's going to trade better than if William Wallace's primary. Now the argument for the William Wallace primary is that rage thing, which you know I'll let you decide that, because
Yeah, yeah.
you know if it's for the YouTube, you know sometimes you got to do stuff just to
Yeah,
satisfy
exactly.
the
Yeah.
audience, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, if you are going to do that, I actually would dismantle some of this cab equipment, just because it's going to be a while until you actually get to the cabs, right? So you're just like, okay, I'm going to run one march. So the cloud racers is something that you're probably not going to run long term anyways, right? You're probably going to replace that with the boots when you get a chance. The abyssal visage, is that what it's called? I know you have a crit on
Yeah, the
there.
helm. Yeah.
I actually never even crafted that. See, like I actually think I watched your videos and listened to you. I actually just stuck with the blue helm and then
Yeah,
went straight to the legendary.
the reason for that is because since this was like KVK 1 and 2, there is no Season of Conquest technology, so
Yeah, yeah.
attack is still the least valuable,
But a
but it's
lot
not
more
as
valuable, yeah.
worse as it is
No, that's true.
in Season of Conquest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? So, like, if you, for example, dismantle those two, all of a sudden you can actually complete your legendary set, except for the Karoxi melody for the infantry, right? And then accessory is a whole different animal. It's super expensive. I'll let you figure that out for yourself. But if you were gonna run accessories for the Lucia March, I think Greatest Glory and then Ring of Doom is the way to go. And I would actually prioritize the Greatest Glory first. I also talked about this yesterday in the video. When the armament system first came out, right, it was pretty obvious to just pull Wedge because there was no smite damage at the time. And if every commander that's worth using is doing skill damage, getting a 5% increase in skill damage will be a bigger benefit, right? Now, obviously, it becomes like useless, especially if you're going to do Lucia William Wallace for infantry, right?
By the way, on a side note, just to let people know why you are not choosing Horn of Fury, for example, on Lucia March, is because Lucia's expertise, extra one basic attack or its combo attack now, it does work as a rage engine. It says gain one basic attack worth of rage, because it wasn't saying it before, if I remember correctly. It wasn't telling us that
Yeah, I
it's
never
gaining
said it,
rage.
and then I forgot who figured it out.
Yeah,
I first saw it actually from Big Kane, but I don't know who figured it
I
out
think
first.
I saw it from Wood Gaming. I
Yeah,
could be wrong, but yeah,
yeah, it's one
since
of
you get the
them.
rage
Yeah,
from extra basic attacks, yeah, you don't necessarily need the Horn of Fury. Sorry for the interruption.
yeah, it's not me. So like the way to think about it, right? It's like the horn. I think there's a 30% chance, and is it to gain 50 rage? I don't remember without looking, but like if Luce's basic attack, or it's called combo attack now, procs, right? One, you have a 25% chance to proc it, but if that thing procs, I think it's 106 rage, right? So if you have a Horn of Fury, basically think 1/4 of the time that Horn of Fury is going to go to waste, because if the Horn of Fury procs
Overrage.
the same turn that Luce's extra combo attack procs, you're just overraging, because the rage cap is 220, right? So like the horn, or in my opinion, is already kind of overrated. You take a horn that's like 75% as effective, it's just not worth using on Lucia.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. So Uh, but back to the armaments, right? So everyone was pulling wedge, but now I actually think if you want to pick like the most universal, safe armament to start out with, it should be arch, right? So I did some of the math talking about it in the video yesterday. But if you think like every white damage you see is 400 damage factor, assuming you're getting the counterattack back, right? In 10 turns, that's 4,000 damage factor. Right, so if like ZL, Herman were hitting one target, 2,000 damage factor, 2,000 damage factor, and you get a 5% increase, the increase is about the same, right? And then people are sort of like, well, ZL does like a direct extra like marquee effect, direct damage. Sometimes, you know, like you're not getting the counterattack back. Like I get it, right? I can't go over all the scenarios. I'm literally just giving you one scenario to kind of show the math. Most of the time for an AoE commander, you're going to get a little bit more benefit from the wedge than the arch. But the challenge with the wedge now is you literally have the infantry march where you're not going to benefit at all or very little from the wedge. And then now, right, with true damage for archer, is that going to become a thing with the open field? Like, we don't know. Like, if that becomes a thing with a new archer, right, or I think like Chisco was speculating how maybe the next cav is going to be a lot more like combo attack focused and not so much maybe like skill damage, right? You're always going to do white damage, right? So, and then not every troop type needs march speed, but every troop type could benefit from boosting their white damage. I think actually arch is a lot more like universal now than wedge. Whereas like when armaments were first released, it was just you go wedge, right?
Yeah.
So for you, since you know, I think you plan on going to infantry first. At least that's what I would suggest. It makes sense to just open for wedge and just to build at least like a set for each and actually have wedge starting out. Now, once the wedge for like say each troop type is in a good place, and then you feel like you want to start pivoting into, for arch is in a good place, you want to start pivoting into wedge. I think that's actually, it makes a lot more sense. Even if you weren't just doing one march of infantry, then to actually start out with wedge and then go arch, right? You just want to go be able to pull the armament where it's applicable to every troop type a lot more. And I think it's starting to swing, if not already, swing towards arch, like pretty clearly arch over wedge at this point. Right? Because you get another smite commander, and then now like infantry just can't benefit from wedge. Like at least archers and cavalry could benefit from arch, right?
Yeah, that is true. So destructive, of course, is really good as well, right? Inscription.
It's good. It's definitely the best one in the slot. I think battle ready is a rare. The closest as far as rare to special out of all of the inscriptions, in my opinion, is actually the arch rare one, the battle ready. There's more in-depth videos on it, right? Because essentially you could burn rage to get like damage increase for 2 seconds with the battle ready, whereas for the destructive, you literally will burn rage just so your next normal attack gets extra damage. But the destructive is kind of like hunter. It's like a 2-parter, right? So the first part is already really good, and then when you add in the second part, it's clearly better than battle ready. It's just the battle ready is closer to that than the other one. So if you were gonna like get an Altark and you had to pick a place to upgrade it, and you already have battle ready, then I actually would probably not upgrade it to destructive, because I feel like I could get a bigger upgrade somewhere else. Like if you're doing rally garrison,
it wouldn't be your priority, huh?
Yeah, if you're doing like rally garrison, right, then you just want the best to get even better. That makes sense. But if you're not, you're just like open fielding grunt like the rest of us, then you want to actually figure out the place where putting that on there will give you the biggest improvement in the field for your overall murder ball.
I see.
Right now, if you're just running one march and you get a Altark, just put a destructive on it. Like don't save it. Even if you save it for 1 KVK, the amount of time like you lose not using that, I just don't think it's worth it.
I see.
Yeah, I had a good buddy that we started in our native kingdom together. He got the Altark in KVK2, and it was like a year and a half later, and he still hasn't put it on something. I'm like, dude, like, what are you doing? Right? It's like, well, I'm saving it for a good armament. Like, just put it on a legendary and then just roll it into a good armament at that point.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, and then something to something to think about, right? So like all of these crates, actually, I would just open it for Arch and just like, you know, because if you get a cav, fine, like you could start building the set for each to prepare for the future. But if you want to be a little bit more thrifty with your transmutation stones, you literally just don't roll anything unless the inscription's already good enough, right? So we're kind of moving to a point now in this game where it used to be where a lot of the regular inscriptions, you're like, okay, this is a long-term thing I could keep, right? But they introduced rare inscriptions, and now it's like more and more ways you could potentially get special. Like assertive, which you get 2% moral damage on the map. Breaker, which is like a defense debuff, and the health ones like robust, vitality, hardy, right? Those are probably the 3 best regular ones. A lot of the rare ones are better, but if you want to talk about pure upside, that's not special inscription. If you get 2 good regular inscriptions, they're usually going to be better than a rare inscription, right? So I would make it where at the very least it's one of the top-notch regulars where you're willing to put a transmutation stone in it just because that's a limited resource. But if you want to set it where like I'm not gonna just use a transmutation stone unless I get a rare inscription in that spot or a good double, or for sure if you get a special inscription, like that will save you a lot of transmutation stones. Because let's just say you get like a shielded, right? You get 3.5 defense or armor 3.5 defense, and then you you use 50 transmutation stones to get it to a good spot, and all of a sudden you pull like a rare, right? Are you going to abandon that one and go to the higher, like go to the rare? Like you know what I mean? Like, whereas like if you already have a rare or a good double, like the only upgrade over that would be a better double or like a special. There's a lot more longevity where you're willing to use the transmutation stones on it to get it higher.
That is true, yeah.
Okay. VIP 14, I mean, you get the 3 gold heads. I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, you should look to get it to like VIP 16, right? And then my mind, like, you're looking to get it to VIP 16, 17, you get a 5% all damage. Like, when does it stop? Right? So like for me, so for me, 14 is when I just tell people, hey, you know, that's the one you should really shoot for first before you even go for T5. Just because, like, you know, right now you're about to go into KVK3, you're going to be really gold head starved, and having that one extra one a day, when you think about it, oh, it's only 30 a month. Like 30 a month is actually like quite significant, right? Especially month after month.
I am trying to go for VIP. Initially I was going to stop at 14.
Yeah.
But then I decided to go for VIP 15 because, I mean, before pushing T5, just because that, you know, 10% healing.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, that's on VIP 16. Healing speed 50%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted to get that healing speed 50%. And another reason was I'm also saving, by the way, all my research. My research is pretty bad. Like, I'm not speeding up anything.
Yeah, I saw you had a bunch of speeds. You're doing Zenith?
Yeah, I want to have the courage to push for a Zenith of Power for once. I've been playing this game for years.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saving my research, and VIP 15 gives me 20% building and 20% research bonus, which hopefully will come handy when the time comes for a Zenith of Power push.
Okay. Yeah, like that, I've never had an aspiration going for Zenith, so
yeah,
I can't speak too much.
I really want to try it for once before I quit the game.
Yeah, for your channel, like, and for all this stuff, like, and seeing like that kind of stuff where it's almost like for an account, right? Like we're just talking about the maximizing the progression for your account is like holding all of that stuff to get Zenith the best way to go. No, but like there's the emotional factor, right? There's the YouTube factors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like if that's what you have your heart set on, then like prep for that for sure.
Yeah. I was, by the way, going to, just like you said, I was going to open these crates for formations for Arch, but I like some piece of me still telling me to wait, because I might just say F it and go for an engineering march and open all of them for V formation.
V formation.
Yeah. So, like, I'm just trying to get rid of the feeling, but I can't. Yeah.
Well, I would say, you know, I mean, you're not in a rush, right? Because you don't have to make that decision until the infantry wheel comes around.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I still have plenty of time.
Yeah. I'll let you make that choice. I built an engineering march maybe 4 months ago, and for me personally, it was a little painful just pulling the V formations, right? Like,
Yeah.
Once I got a legendary inscription in every slot, I'm like, okay, I'm just not opening this anymore. I like usually I would actually settle for maybe like a better inscription. Like for example, like the banner, I have something like called like Desperado, which is like I think you deal like some damage or take less damage like when you're under 50% or something. I'm like, oh, I can make a case where okay, because it's siege, it may be better. It's not that good, but I just don't want to pull any more V formation. So yeah, so
I mean, 90%.
Yeah,
With a 90% chance, I will go with the infantry route. But
yeah, I just don't like, for example, right? Because that's a decent amount of crates there, right? Let's just say you pull that for V formation, a lot of it is going to go to waste, right? Whereas when you pull it for wedge, some of it will go to waste, right? The infantry will kind of go to waste because like eventually you want to get to arch anyways. Whereas if you put arch, you'll be able to use all of them. So
yeah,
that's kind of the thought process there. But like, you know, if you want to make it a siege channel, then, you know, or siege march, then you should pull V. Okay. Now the general
siege channel. Oh my god.
Oh no, maybe not a siege channel, but your
I
first
see,
march is
yeah,
siege and you just like dominate with it.
Uh-huh.
There's already a siege channel. Our boy, Mr. Siege.
Yeah, there is no need to interrupt his. His
I actually
career,
haven't
yeah.
seen as many videos from him lately. We were chatting a
probably
lot
he's in
more
off
before.
season.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so for you, just something to keep in mind, right? Like your kingdom looks interesting. I don't really know much about it. It's you can't even look through like a Fleisch or like 1093 scan to find out data about your kingdom, just because it's so young. But the most at risk for a kingdom is KVK5 or 6.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just like over and over, especially these like top ones. If they go into KVK5 undefeated, it's very often they lose one in KVK5 and then lose again in KVK6, then it's over. Right. I think like the probably
RIP then.
Yeah, probably like the most like recent like top kingdom example that would like 3159. Like they were huge. A lot of power, a lot of KP. They were in that 2377, 2429 KVK last KVK, and ended up losing. Lost a bunch of people. They were able to reload a little bit, and then they lost to Mimi, and looks like it's probably game over for that kingdom.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's just something to plan for. So if you do end up migrating, because I don't know anything about your kingdom, honestly, the VIP thing, since I have moved to my kingdom, I'm gaining VIP about like 60% faster than I was before. Right now, part of it is because I'm spending a little bit more, but a lot of it is just there's just way more activity and spend in the kingdom than before. If you're looking for like a low A, right, the easiest way to look for the sign of a good kingdom is to have good KP relative to the kingdom power, right? Because it takes something to actually press your power down, right? Just because every off season, if you're not losing the dead weights, you know, like zeroing all that stuff, right? Like leadership actually has to be willing to do that. If they're willing to do that, they could actually keep the power relatively low for the KP. That's like the easiest sign to that the kingdom probably is at least like decently run. And then
getting managed well.
Yeah, right. Like if I had to look at one data for what I think about a kingdom, right? You can look at their alliance board, you can look at all that stuff. I would actually look at their kingdom power to KP. That's the stat I would look for, right? And then for you, you have the advantage of doing YouTube, so you could probably get into a lot more places than someone else that would normally have your account profile.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. You know. Other than that, I don't really have anything. I think you should start with one march, and then what you'll know when it's time to go for 2 marches, where you again have enough gold heads, right? And then you have enough like mats, everything saved up, and then you can start kind of picking if this march is like worth going for. So, for example, some of the other players are like, "Oh, I should invest in Ashurbanipal right now." Like we're about a month and a half, maybe 2 months, probably about a month and a half. I'm seeing the new Archer commander, right? Like, why would you invest in Archer right now? Just wait a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. ZL and Herman, they're interesting because kit-wise, I think ZL is better. But so ZL does more damage, right? But you can make an argument that Herman is slightly more tanky. His debuff is slightly better. He has 15% march speed, which makes him much more versatile with pairing with other people.
Yeah.
And he's actually almost like a better starting commander to invest in. So that's why, like, you know, I talked about Scipio earlier. when you essentially don't have a glaring weakness, your ability to synergize with any commander just goes up greatly, right? Because if you have ZL, any other archer commander that has like no march speed or like 10% march speed like Boudica, it's like it's almost like a challenge pairing them together, right? Whereas like if you could do everything, and Scipio's one weakness, if I had to say there is one, is that like I wish he did a little bit more skill damage, right? Instead of just bringing 10% skill damage, it was doing 20%. That commander would just be even more versatile, a lot better. But even right now, he's really good, right? So Herman kind of fits in that like mold too, right? He has march speed, does 20% skill damage, has a good 3-target AoE, has an awesome debuff, has some like tankiness to him. He could pair with any archer commander.
Yeah.
If you were gonna invest in one, you would do Herman. But right now, like if you're gonna go this infantry route, just save it, and then you kind of start figuring out what the next invest is going to be. I just wouldn't do my next invest to be siege, right? It would actually be cav or archer. And then since you already have some cav equipment built up and you probably need a little bit of time to get there, it would probably actually make more sense to just skip archer. And then by the time cav comes around, you should have enough to, again, get like your second march starting out already in a really good place, and you can run 2 really quality marches. So that's probably like the progression for you. Probably like January-ish. January-ish is when actually no, it's probably going to be archer and then leadership engineering and then cav,
probably,
right?
Yeah.
So it actually might be like March actually.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, you have 8 months, 7-8 months to build everything up. And then you go in and you expand to a second march. It might be a little slow, you might be able to do it faster, but like for sure in March, right, you'll have enough of everything to just go in and make a better decision, right? Like it'll probably be Joan, and then whatever the new cav is, if anything. If I had to take a low confidence guess.
So just a quick question about archers and Joan.
Yeah.
Number one, the first question about archers: would you use Herman and Zhuge Liang with low investment, or would you just max them before you use them?
So
because many people saying that, I kind of agree. If you do have the, for example, armaments, equipment, of course, I would say Zhuge Liang 5511, Herman 5551. Then you can slowly start using them and max Zhuge Liang first, and then go ahead and max Herman. But would you use them like this, or would you just expertise Zhuge Liang and then maybe use 5551 Herman?
So if you're talking about like wanting to fight at a low seed, I think 5511 for both would be like good enough. And a lot of it depends on your equipment, right? So I think for Season of Conquest, a minimum to shoot for is just like all revival and then Dragon's Breath chest.
Yeah.
Right. So all quick revival, Dragon's Breath chest, and you can run that with 5511 for both. That march is really good. I felt like it could probably do better if it had a little bit more march speed. Because like for how good it looks like the march should do, it doesn't do quite as well as what it looks like. But is it because they're only getting a 40% skill damage increase? Is it because there's not enough march speed? Is it because like archers are getting targeted? I'm not sure. It feels like it's. I think it's the second best march in the game, right? Whatever Luce is the best, but it's just like it still feels like it should be a little better than what it actually is. But 5511 is good enough. I've had people ask me about like ZL, right? Like, well, the fourth skill is better than the third skill. I actually agree. ZL's fourth skill is better than the third skill, but ZL's fourth skill doesn't get fully activated until you have the expertise, right? So the Marquis effect, if you have ZL's expertise, you go into combat with it, it's so much more powerful, right? Whereas if you're actually looking to, just spend the 270 gold heads, I think 5551 ZL is actually better than 5515 ZL for that reason. Herman is the same thing. Like 5551, most of the value is there already. But like even 5511, right? You get the active skill, you get the stats. It actually is already pretty good. I tried using a expertise ZL with a 5411 Herman before, when I was just like a lot younger, kind of have enough, and it was like
Yeah.
trading really, really well. I'm like, dang, even a 5411 Herman was doing better than a ZO YSG for me, right? I'm like, okay, like even a 5411 Herman's better than a uh, single relic YSG at the time for me. So yeah, so it's definitely usable. It's a very long-winded
Hmm.
way of saying that.
As long as you're not in an Imperium Kingdom, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think for your account like progression where
Hmm.
you're at, I don't think you should go for Archer. It's just too soon, right? Like if you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about
mean,
if you're talking about like October, you're gonna get the new Archer, right? So whether you go ZL
mhm.
Herman or the new Archer with either ZL or Herman, I don't. Yeah, like how long will it take you to build that march up? And then by the time you build that march up, would you actually now have enough resources, like gold heads or mass, to invest in potentially a better commander that you're missing out on because you're investing in that, right? Like I think it's good to if you're like never sure, right? Like the best place
Mhm.
to go is okay. You just wait a little bit longer, so you could see, for example, what the next commander is for that troop type. Then you could decide to backwards invest a little bit. But like if you don't
Yeah,
know what
that
the next
makes sense.
commander is and you invest like 3 weeks out beforehand, uh,
Hmm.
there's just like more chances of regretting something, right? Whereas like if you just wait a little bit longer, now you know, okay, well after this, for example, Cow Commander comes out, then it's going to be another like 80 days or whatever until the Infantry Commander comes out. Then I feel a lot more confident going back and getting ZL Herman or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I see.
Yeah,
Okay, so as a quick summary, we are going for one march. We are going to focus on one march. We are not going to split our investments into multiple marches when it comes to sculptures, equipment, materials, whatever.
hmm
And that march is going to be an infantry march. So
or Siege. You
normally,
change your mind.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't do that. Don't
yeah,
do
yeah.
that. I'm focused on infantry right
All
now.
right, all right.
So um, you're saying that CPO would be better, but since I'm doing YouTube, I need to I not need to, but I would like to invest on William Wallace just because he's a newer commander and would be more interesting to watch for the viewers.
Yeah.
So we are going for William Wallace and Liu Che. We are going all in with arch formation, and of course regular uh, legendary infantry equipment. By the way, quick question: you said legendary helm and set helm and set weapon, correct? Not the KVK ones.
Yeah, now you want to go for the 4 piece bonus. I think it's just straight up better. Like March speed is a lot more important for
Hmm.
infantry overall. Because like if you want to go the KVK route, right, then you do the KVK uh, weapon and helm. Then you
Mm-hmm.
actually don't even go for the 4 piece. I mean, you don't even go for the set like stuff, right? Like you start doing I forgot what the glove is called. Like you go to Shields for the boost. You go to the is it called Ian's Choice or the Sacred
Sacred
Grips?
grips.
Sacred Grips, right? Like
Yeah.
you start getting into that just because like each one of those you could squeeze out like a 0.5% or 1% more stats, like as opposed to doing the set.
Mm-hmm.
It actually starts making more sense that way.
Because you can get more material, more blueprints easily,
Yeah, it's like a little
and
easier that way. Yeah.
yeah, easier to get special talent and all the other things. I see. So I thought we would go for the KVK weapon honestly because now the cost is way lower compared to past because they cost the
Yeah.
same right now. I was definitely thinking of, and also I would say probably William Wallace or Alex with Liu Che is not the slowest infantry march. So I thought we wouldn't need it 4 pieces have bonus, but you are saying that 4 pieces is better.
Yeah. So
At least it feels better, right?
for some reason, I heard from a couple different because obviously I wanted to ask a lot of different people. I want to see their
Mm-hmm.
reports managers and stuff to make the decision. I've heard from a
Mm-hmm.
couple people that they felt the Luce William Wallace march was slightly slow,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting, right? Because I
Yeah.
wouldn't expect that, but that's what I heard. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, there's a couple of people I've talked to that have told me they wish they didn't invest in the KVK weapon and just did the 4 piece. And
Mm-hmm.
like March speed is one of those where it doesn't show up directly on the stats, but you connect to the target easier, you get away easier. It's just it's I I personally would prefer for open fielding the 4-piece set bonus.
Yeah, that is true. Also, I would like to say, like, give a quick tip for any viewer out there. If you're going for, let's say, one infantry, one cavalry, one archer march, I would say you 100% want the KVK weapon and KVK helm for archers and cavalry.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
this means if you are not investing on a siege march, for example, if you go for KVK weapon and KVK helm for infantry as well, that means pretty much every single equipment choice chest that is legendary for weapon or helm will be useless. Because for all your 3 marches, you are going for KVK weapons and KVK helms. But if you go, when it comes to infantry, if you go 4 pieces set bonus, then you can get use of those blueprint fragment choice chests that you get from, I don't know, Golden Kingdom, Ian's Ballads, whatever.
Yeah.
You can make use of it. So that could be another reason to go for KVK weapon and KVK helm for archers and cavalry, about 4 pieces set for infantry.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to notice that a little bit, right? Because my account is considered younger, but I'm pretty much finishing my legendary equipment now. And something I've just always noticed is people are like, they love the egg vent. They're always like, oh, I need more blueprints, right? But I'm like, my bottleneck is mats, right? But all of a sudden you start realizing, okay, let's just say you didn't get lucky, right? You need 4 blueprints to awaken 5 if you're going to get that far. Then you potentially need 4 more blueprints after you crafted it to get crit, right? So if you're counting the blueprint to craft it and then like all that stuff, if you're unlucky, you need 9 blueprints just to get 1 to like the fully max level. And a lot of these players I play with, right, like that's what they aspire to. It just, the blueprints, it becomes a huge bottleneck. Even though mats, you know, you always wish you had more mats, but like when you need so many blueprints just to work on one item, it actually ends up becoming a bottleneck for a lot of people way later on. So if you could spread out, right, you're not doing all KVK, right, because even though they give you more coins, you still don't get enough coins to get all of those. That's just something to consider too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, is there anything that you would like to add as the coach? Because I think this was very helpful and informative. It's been an hour almost.
Yeah, no, that's it. I just think if you go that one march, you'll actually get really good trades. You'll be able to have fun, even like KVK3 and 4. So
yeah, let's see if we can get to 30 million kills with that one march, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you play enough, you could definitely do it, right? Like if you actually get the equipment, so use the 250 mass, maybe dismantle 2 pieces just to get the full legendary, except for the Karoks. And then with the commanders pairing you're using, like you've never used Lucia before, right?
No, I had it on 5511 on my older account.
Yeah,
but I never get the chance to expertise them.
Yeah, Lucha, it's disgusting. It's just different. There's something different about that march. Even without the reports manager, right? Like you're like, oh man, like all my marches traded negative, and then you look at that one's still slightly positive. It's like it's just like you can roll your face on the keyboard and it'll do well, you know. So yeah, it's really really fun to use.
Okay, Boss Driver, thank you so much, man. And by the way, people who are watching it on my channel, his channel link will be in the description if you just want to check out his videos, or if you like to get a mentorship like this for your own account, make sure to hit him on Discord. His Discord link will be in the description as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I see you on the next one. Boss Driver, thank you for joining in. Goodbye.